Captain Lee Hannah felt the cold metal of the control panel under her fingers as her patrol ship moved slowly through the dark space around. Colony 7. The rocks floating in space looked like broken teeth against the stars. It had been 15 years since Earth gave up fighting against the hegemony. 15 long years since the aliens came with their promises. They said they would bring peace. They said humans would be safe and happy. They said many things, but their words were like pretty wrapping paper around a box full of chains. On his screen, his voice sounded tired, like most humans did these days. Hope was hard to find when you lived under alien rule. Hannah pushed a button to make their ship move closer to the big mining platform. It was huge, made of gray metal and bright lights. Machines worked day and night to dig valuable metals from the floating rocks. But as they got closer, Hannah saw something that made her stomach feel sick. The human workers moved like they were half asleep. They walked slowly, like old people, even though many of them were young. Their clothes hung loose on their thin bodies. While the humans struggled to do their jobs, the alien machines worked fast and smooth, pulling tons of precious metals from the rocks. "Look at those big containers," Hannah said quietly, pointing at the metal boxes near the loading area. "They are taking everything away from here. Captain, I am getting a call for help from the medical center. They need food, medicine, and basic things to live." Hannah felt anger growing in her chest like a fire. Colony 7 sat on some of the richest mineral deposits that humans had ever found. But the people who worked to dig up these treasures were starving. She watched a group of workers carrying a heavy container. One man stopped to rest, putting his hand against the wall. Even from far away, Hannah could see how thin he was. "This is wrong," she said, her hands making fists. "These people are dying while their work makes the aliens rich." Doyen nodded. "The hegemony says they give enough food and supplies. They say humans get what they need. What they need to barely stay alive," Hannah replied. "Just enough so they can keep working." She started recording everything she saw. The thin workers, the full containers leaving the station, the empty supply areas where human food and medicine should be stored. If she could show this to the right people, maybe something would change. Her communication system made a beeping sound. The screen showed the face of Commander Veltar, her alien supervisor. His skin was gray and smooth, with no hair anywhere. His eyes were big and black, like a shark's eyes. "Captain Lee," he said in his electronic voice, "your ship has been near Colony 7 for too long. Is there a problem?" "Commander, I am seeing some issues with the workers here. Maybe we should send more food and medical supplies." Veltar's expression did not change. Aliens were hard to read, but Hannah thought she saw something cold in his dark eyes. "The colonists receive adequate provisions according to hegemony standards. Your job is to patrol, not to question our policies." "But sir, if the workers get sick, they cannot do their jobs well. It would be better for everyone if Captain Lee," Veltar interrupted, his voice becoming sharp like a knife. "You are exceeding your authority. Your concerns have been noted and dismissed. Return to your patrol route immediately." The screen went black. Hannah stared at it for a long moment, feeling the weight of 15 years of frustration and anger around her. Her crew worked quietly, but she could feel their eyes on her. They all knew what they had just seen. They all understood what it meant. Captain Minji said softly, "What do we do?" The containers full of precious metals would soon travel 2 alien worlds, making the hegemony richer while humans grew weaker. The aliens had promised peace when they came to Earth. They said humans would be protected, cared for. But Hannah was beginning to understand that their version of peace was just another word for control. Peace without freedom was not peace at all. It was just quiet slavery. She made her decision. The aliens might have all the power, but they did not have all the truth. And sometimes, the truth was the most dangerous weapon of all. "Set course for Luna Station," she told her crew. "I think it's time we had a conversation with some old friends." As their ship turned away from Colony 7, Hannah began to plan. Aliens had made their promises 15 years ago. Hannah saw the truth at Colony 7. Now she walked through the dark tunnels under Luna Station, her footsteps echoing off the metal walls. The air smelled like oil and rust. These tunnels were supposed to be empty. She knew better. The man waiting for her in the shadows looked older than his years. Admiral Cho Jin-woo had once commanded Earth's greatest warships. People just called him Jin. His hair was gray. His face had deep lines, and his eyes held the weight of too many secrets. "You are crazy to come here," Jin said, his voice quiet but strong. The dim lights made his face look like a ghost. "That alien Commander Veltar has been asking about you? He wants to know why you stayed so long at Colony 7. Hana was not afraid. She pulled out her small computer and showed him the screen. "Let him ask all he wants. Jin, look at this. What I found is worse than we thought." Jin moved closer to see the information. His face grew dark as he read. The screen showed lists of numbers, ship schedules, and reports that should have been secret. It told a story that made Hannah's blood run cold. "They are not just using us for work," Hannah continued. "They are destroying everything that makes us human. Look here. They move our people from planet to planet like cattle. Here they stop our scientists from learning new things. And here they take everything valuable we have." Jin's hand shook as he read more. "We are like farm animals to them. They keep us alive just enough to be useful." "Yes," Hannah said. "We thought they conquered us in a war. But they did something worse. They made us help them destroy ourselves." Tunnel grew quiet, except for the sound of water dripping somewhere in the darkness. Both of them understood what this meant. The hegemony had not just won a war 15 years ago. Every choice humans made, every agreement they signed, had been part of a bigger plan. Suddenly, they heard footsteps coming from another tunnel. Jin's hand moved fast toward the weapon hidden under his jacket. Hannah held her breath. If the aliens found them here, everything would be over. But the person who came into the light was not an alien. It was Dr. Yoon Seo-yang, a human woman who studied alien life forms. Hannah knew her from the reports. She worked with the newest aliens to join the hegemony, a group called the Zephyrians. "Do not be afraid," So-yang said softly. "I brought someone who wants to help us." Behind her walked a tall alien, unlike any Hannah had seen before. His skin was silver like metal, and his eyes glowed with soft light. He moved like a dancer, smooth and careful. But there was something in his face that surprised Hannah. It looked like sadness. "This is Kethfer," Si-Yuang said. "He is different from the other aliens." The alien called Kethfer spoke in perfect Korean. His voice was deep and musical, not like the electronic sounds that other aliens made. "What my people have done to your people is wrong. The hegemony told us we would be partners. But now I see we are just another tool they use to hurt others." Jin did not trust easily. His hand stayed near his weapon. "Why should we believe you? Your people joined them willingly." Deves glowing. Eyes looked sad. "Because we were lied to, just like you were. They promised us a place in their great alliance. They said we would help bring peace to the galaxy. But peace built on lies is not peace at all." He reached into his clothing and pulled out a small device that looked like a crystal. It glowed with the same soft light as his eyes. Jin moved back, ready to fight, but Kethfer made no quick movements. "This contains information that could help you," the alien said. "Ship schedules, patrol routes, communication codes, everything. I could steal without being caught." Hannah looked at the device, then at Kethfer's face. "Why are you doing this? If they find out, they will kill you. Because I have seen what they do to worlds that resist. I have seen the camps where they put people who ask too many questions. I have seen children taken from their families." His voice broke a little. "I thought I was helping to build something beautiful. Instead, I helped build a prison." Seo-yang stepped forward. "Kethfer's people are not the only ones who have doubts. There are others in the hegemony who are starting to ask questions. Alliance is not as strong as it looks." Jin slowly reached out and took the crystal device. "What do you want in return?" "I want you to succeed," Kethfer said simply. "I want the hegemony to learn that some promises must be kept. You should promise them justice." The word hung in the air like a challenge. Justice. It was something humans had. almost forgotten after 15 years of bowing to alien masters. But hearing it spoken by an alien who had chosen to risk everything to help them, it sounded like hope. Hannah felt something change inside her. The anger that had been growing since Colony 7 began to transform into something else. Something stronger. Something that might just be enough to light a fire that would burn across the galaxy. The aliens had made their promises. Now it was time for humanity to make theirs. The video moved from computer to computer like a disease spreading through the human colonies. Jin's secret network carried it to every corner of human space. People watched in horror as the truth played. Out on their screens, it started as a peaceful gathering on Mars colony. Families had come together in the main square, holding signs and singing old Earth songs. They wanted better food for their children. They wanted medicine for their sick. They wanted to be treated like people, not like animals. The signs they held were simple. "Feed our children, and we are human too," written in careful letters. Mothers held babies while fathers stood beside them. Children played between the adults, not understanding why everyone looked so worried. Then the hegemony soldiers arrived. Lieutenant Colonel Han Woojin sat in his office, watching the recording for the 5th time. His hands were tight fists on his desk. His jaw hurt from grinding his teeth. Around him, his officers watched in silent anger. "They called it stopping terrorists," Woojin said, his voice shaking with rage. "Look at these terrorists. That little girl with the flower in her hair. She could not have been older than 8 years old." On the screen, the energy weapons fired bright blue beams into the crowd. People fell like cut wheat. A woman screamed as she held her child. An old man tried to shield a young boy with his body. The flower girl disappeared in a flash of light. The room was so quiet that Woojin could hear his own heartbeat. His officers stared at the screen with faces like stone. These were good soldiers, all of them. They had served humanity for years, even under alien rule. This was murder. Major Song Yuna was the first to speak. She was a pilot who had won medals for her service. Her voice was steady, but her eyes showed her pain. "Sir, we have new orders. They want us to go to Mars. They say we need to help with peacekeeping operations." Woojin looked at each of his officers. He had known most of them for years. They had eaten together, fought together, and trusted each other with their lives. Now they all faced the same terrible choice. "I want you all to understand something," he said slowly. "Whatever we decide today, we can never go back. If we follow these orders, we become part of this. If we refuse, we become enemies of the hegemony." The silence stretched on. Outside, Woojin could hear the normal sounds of the military base. Soldiers training, ships landing, the hum of machinery. But everything had changed. 2 days later, Woojin stood on the surface of Mars colony with his unit. Their transport ship had landed in the main square where the protest had happened. Dark stains on the ground showed where people had died. The smell of burned metal still hung in the air. The protesters had returned. Not as many as before, but they were there. Families holding pictures of the people who had been killed. Old people who remembered when humans ruled their own worlds. Young people who refused to accept that this was how things had to be. The hegemony commanders expected Woojin to scatter the crowd, to arrest anyone who would not leave, to make sure that no one else would dare to stand up and ask for basic human rights. Instead, Woojin made a choice that would change everything. "Form a protective circle around the protesters," he ordered his soldiers. "No one gets through." His soldiers looked at him in surprise. Then, one by one, they moved to obey. They formed a wall of human bodies between the protesters and the alien enforcers, who were coming to arrest them. The communication system crackled to life. Commander Veltar's electronic voice filled the air, cold and angry. "Colonel Han, you are ordered to stand down immediately. You're breaking direct orders from the hegemony." Woojin picked up his communicator. His voice was calm and clear. "Oh, Commander, I am remembering what my oath really means. I swore to protect humanity, all of humanity." "You are a traitor to the peace we have built," Veltar replied. "Your peace is built on the bodies of children," Woojin said. "That is not peace. That is tyranny." The standoff lasted 3 hours. Alien ships circled overhead while human soldiers stood their ground. The protesters sang quietly behind their protectors. Children who had been afraid began to smile as they saw humans standing up for them. When it ended, the protesters were safe. They would never be able to return to their normal lives. They had crossed a line that could not be uncrossed. But something else had happened. The video of human soldiers protecting human protesters spread through Jin's network even faster than the first recording. Across human space, other officers began to ask themselves the same question that Wu Jin had asked. What did their oath really mean? On Luna Station, Captain Lee, Hannah watched the Mars recordings with tears in her eyes. On Earth, retired soldiers cleaned dust off their old uniforms. On the mining colonies, workers began to whisper about the colonel who had remembered his duty. The spark had been lit. Now it was time to see if it would grow into a fire that could burn away 15 years of lies and broken promises. The aliens had promised peace. Humanity was about to promise them something else entirely. The hegemony's answer to human rebellion came like thunder across the stars. Massive alien warships appeared at colony after colony, their weapons turning peaceful settlements into burning ruins. The message was clear: resist and die. But humanity had learned many things during 15 years of living under alien rule. They had learned to be quiet, they had learned to hide. Most importantly, they had learned to fight dirty. Captain Lee. Hannah stood on the bridge of her ship, watching the stars through the main window. Her vessel had once been a simple cargo hauler, carrying supplies between colonies. It bristled with weapons stolen from alien supply depots. The ship's name, painted in fresh letters on the hull, read Justice Rising. Around her worked nearly 200 humans who had chosen to follow her into exile. They came from every corner of human space, former soldiers, miners, teachers, even children who had nowhere else to go. His young face was serious as he read the displays. It's coming from Direction 27 Mark IV. Hannah felt her heart jump. In space, unknown ships usually meant danger. But then Tae-young smiled. It's the Resilience, Captain. Admiral Cho's ship. The main screen flickered to life, showing the tired but determined face of Jin. Behind him, Hannah could see the bridge of what had once been a hegemony battlecruiser. Now human hands operated the alien controls, and human voices filled the command center. Hannah, we have big problems, Jin said, his voice heavy with worry. The hegemony is moving their main battle fleet toward Earth. This is not just about stopping the rebellion anymore. They want to end it forever. The words hit Hannah like a physical blow. Earth was more than just humanity's birth world. It was the heart of human civilization, the place where over half of all humans still lived. If the hegemony took Earth hostage, the rebellion would have to surrender or watch billions of innocent people die. How many ships? Hannah asked, though. She dreaded the answer. More than 300 warships, Jin replied, including their super dreadnoughts, ships so big they can crack planets. Around the bridge, Hannah's crew listened in silence. They all understood what this meant. The combined human resistance fleet had maybe 50 ships, most of them converted, cargo haulers, and mining vessels. Against the hegemony's main fleet, they would last about as long as snowflakes in a fire. We cannot match their firepower, Hannah said, speaking the truth that everyone knew. But we know these star systems better than they do. We grew up here. We know every asteroid, every nebula, every place to hide. Jin nodded slowly. The question is, can we use that knowledge to win, or just to die more slowly? Before Hannah could answer, another voice broke into their conversation. Perhaps we can do more than just die slowly. The words came from Dr. Yoon. Behind her, Hannah could see the silver features of Kethfer, the alien who had chosen to help humanity. What do you mean? Hannah asked. Seo Young held up a data crystal that glowed with soft light. Kethfer has been busy. He's gotten us information about the hegemony fleet. Ship positions, command codes, even the location of their main command vessel. The alien stepped forward, his luminous eyes filled with determination. My people are not the only ones who have grown tired of the hegemony's methods. There are others who question what we have become. If you can strike at the right moment, you will not fight alone. Hannah felt something that had been missing for months. Hope. What kind of help are we talking about? Ships, Kethver said simply. Weapons. Crews who are willing to turn against their former masters. The hegemony is not as united as they pretend to be. Jin leaned forward in his chair. It still leaves us outnumbered. Even with alien help, we are talking about a battle that could destroy everything we are fighting for. Then we make sure we win, Hannah said, her voice growing stronger. We have something the hegemony does not understand. We are fighting for our homes, our families, our right to exist as free people. They are fighting to keep control of their slaves. She looked around at her crew. These were people who had given up everything to stand against tyranny. They had no homes to return to, no safe places to hide. All they had was each other and their determination to see justice done. Send word. To all resistance cells, Hannah ordered. Tell them to prepare for the final battle. We are going to Earth. Not the communication channels filled with messages of support and determination. Hannah stared out at the stars. Somewhere out there, the largest alien fleet in history was moving toward humanity's homeworld. They came expecting to crush the last spark of human resistance. They were about to learn that some sparks, when fed by justice and determination, could become fires that burned down empires. The aliens had promised peace 15 years ago. Now humanity was ready to show them what their promises were really worth. The final battle for Earth began where the sun's light grew dim, and the planets were just distant points of light. Here, at the edge of the solar system, the hegemony's massive war fleet met the scattered ships of human resistance. Admiral Cho Jinwoo watched from the bridge of his flagship as the alien armada approached. 300 warships moved in perfect formation, their hulls gleaming like metal sharks in the starlight. Against them, humanity had managed to gather 50 vessels, most of them cargo ships with weapons bolted to their sides. Is Admiral Cho? Jin spoke into his communicator. Remember, we are not trying to win a fair fight. We are trying to survive long enough to save our world. The first attack came from the shadows. Hidden among the floating rocks of the asteroid belt, human ships had placed modified mining charges, explosives meant to break. As the hegemony fleet passed through the field, the charges exploded. Like deadly flowers of fire and light, alien ships staggered as the blasts tore through their formations. Some were damaged, a few destroyed, but the main force kept coming. The hegemony's response was immediate and terrible. Energy beams lanced out from their warships, turning empty space into a storm of destruction. But their targets were already gone. The human ships had learned to fight like ghosts, appearing from hiding places to strike, and then vanishing back into the darkness. They used every piece of space debris, every cloud of gas, every shadow as cover. Phoenix Wing, this is Justice 1. Captain Lee Hannah's voice crackled across the communication network. She was leading a small group of fighter ships toward the heart of the enemy fleet. Beginning final approach on the command ship, her tiny squadron dove toward the massive, alien flagship-like insects attacking a giant. The ship was enormous. Bigger than most space stations, bristling with weapons that could destroy cities. Around it, smaller warships formed a protective wall of steel and fire. The defensive fire was like flying through a thunderstorm made of death. Bright energy beams crisscrossed the space around them, each one capable of vaporizing a fighter in an instant. But Hannah's pilots were the best humanity had left, and they danced through the deadly light show with desperate skill. Behind them, the last of Earth's orbital defense platforms added their own weapons to the chaos. These ancient stations had been built to protect the homeworld, but they had never faced anything like this. Their guns fired continuously, adding their voices to the symphony of destruction. On the bridge of the hegemony command ship, Admiral Kethson surveyed the tactical display with growing alarm. His species had conquered a dozen worlds, always finding the same pattern. Initial resistance, then gradual acceptance, then grateful submission. The conquered peoples learned to appreciate the peace and order that the hegemony brought. But these humans were different. They fought with a fury that seemed to come from their very souls. Even when their ships were destroyed, the survivors would ram their burning hulks into alien vessels. Even when facing certain death, they would not surrender. "Sir," his communications officer reported, "we are receiving surrender requests from..." The Zephyrian fleet Quetzon turned in surprise. "Surrender requests? From whom?" "From us, sir. The Zephyrian ships are requesting permission to surrender... to the humans." Before the admiral could respond, the Zephyrian vessels opened fire. On their own allies. Kethver's people had chosen their side, and with them came 3 other alien species who had grown sick of the hegemony's methods. The tide of battle shifted in moments.
Ow.
Ships that had been part of the hegemony fleet suddenly became enemies, their weapons turning against their former commanders. The perfect formation collapsed into chaos as allies became enemies and friends became targets. "All human units, this is Admiral Cho." Jin's voice rang out across the battlefield. "The door is open. Hit them now." The scattered human forces emerged from their hiding places like a pack of wolves, ships ramming into enemy hulls at full speed. Captain Hana's fighter squadron reached the command ship just as its shields failed. Her small craft dove through the opening, weaving between the massive ship's defensive systems. She shouted as she fired her weapons into the command ship's core. The explosion that followed could be seen from Mars, the flagship's destruction sent shockwaves through the hegemony fleet as their command network collapsed. Ships that had been coordinated by the central computer, Earth's sky belonged to humanity once again. The survivors of the hegemony fleet retreated to the outer darkness, their invasion shattered by the fury of a species that refused to accept slavery. 3 days later, the remaining hegemony leaders requested terms of surrender. They were led to a simple room on Luna Station, where Admiral Cho Jinwoo waited for them. "You promised us peace," Jin said, his voice carrying the weight of 15 years of suffering. "We promised you justice, complete withdrawal from human space, reparations for the damage you have caused, and a guarantee that humanity will never again mistake oppression for protection." The aliens had learned too late that some promises were worth more than others. They had promised peace, but humanity had delivered justice.